The sea was quiet that night. Waves brushed gently against the stone harbor of Alexandria, carrying the scent of salt and incense. Far above, on the hill of the Mousillon, the library stood, vast, luminous, alive. Its marble columns gleamed beneath the torchlight, and through its open windows drifted the murmur of scholars debating eternity. This was no ordinary library. It was the beating heart of human knowledge, a city within a city, where the world's wisdom gathered like rivers converging to the sea. Within its walls rested scrolls from Greece and Egypt, Persia and India, Babylon and beyond. Mathematicians measured the stars. Physicians studied the body. Poets traced the shape of the human soul. Every language, every idea, every dream of civilization was welcome there. In this imagined night, this night where the fire never came, the library stands eternal. The soldiers never break its gates. The scrolls never burn. The wind does not carry the ashes of wisdom into the dark. Instead, the flame of learning spreads, not in destruction, but in illumination. Picture it. The knowledge of ancient worlds surviving, unbroken. Archimedes' lost treatises on machines and flight preserved. Hypatia's writings on mathematics and philosophy continued, her mind a bridge between reason and reverence. The secrets of Egyptian medicine recorded, refined, expanded, healing not as superstition, but as science wrapped in faith. Chinese astronomy meeting Greek geometry. Hindu numerals intertwining with Roman order. The world's knowledge, united centuries before our modern age, ever dreamed of unity. Imagine the Renaissance, not in the 15th century, but in the first. Imagine Galileo learning from scrolls 2,000 years old, filled with theories of orbit and motion already tested by ancient hands. Imagine a world where progress never had to begin again, because it never stopped. Without the burning, humanity might have leapt forward not by inches, but by centuries. Steam, flight, and astronomy, all whispered in those scrolls, perhaps only waiting to be rediscovered. Electricity might have hummed through copper long before kings wore crowns. Maps of the stars might have reached galaxies we still struggle to name. Medicine might have conquered disease before it conquered empires. And yet, even as we dream of this golden world, there is a quiet question that lingers beneath the wonder. Would knowledge alone have saved us? Would a wiser world have been a kinder one? For in this world where Alexandria stands, kings still hunger for power, the wise are still envied, and men still twist knowledge into weapons because ambition burns hotter than any library fire. Perhaps even in this unburned world, another danger would have risen, not of flames, but of arrogance. For knowledge, untempered by humility, can consume just as easily as ignorance. It blinds as much as it illuminates. Still, imagine the scholars walking the marble corridors, their voices echoing softly between columns carved with hieroglyphs and Greek letters intertwined. They speak of medicine, of poetry, of the nature of the stars. A philosopher from Athens debates a priest from Thebes. A student from Carthage listens, her eyes wide with wonder. There is no border here, no nation, no creed, only the pursuit of truth. It is a temple not of gods, but of thought. And outside, the city glows like an ember. Ships from every coast anchor in its harbor, bringing papyrus and spices, stories and symbols. The lighthouse of Pharaoh sends its beam across the sea, not just a warning to sailors, but a promise to the world. That light can guide even through darkness. In this alternate history, the library becomes not a memory, but a movement. Its scholars trained disciples. Its disciples found new libraries, and soon knowledge travels faster than conquest. Empires may fall, but the scrolls endure, copied, translated, protected by those who believe learning is sacred. Religion and science, instead of clashing, intertwine, both reaching toward the same divine mystery. Faith, not as opposition to reason, but as its poetry. And centuries later, when we look back on this imagined world, perhaps we would no longer call it the ancient world at all, for there would be no dark ages, only an unbroken dawn. The wisdom of Alexandria would ripple outward, its light touching lands untouched by empire. Civilizations would rise together, not one upon another. The great experiment of humanity, understanding itself, would never be interrupted by the smoke of war or the silence of ignorance. And maybe, just maybe, we would look at one another not as conquerors or conquered, but as students of the same eternal book. For that is what the Library of Alexandria truly was. Not a building, but a vision. A vision of what we could be when curiosity overcomes fear, when knowledge is shared instead of hoarded. It was a promise that the mind, like fire, could spread warmth instead of destruction. So as we imagine the fire that never came, as we picture the shelves still standing, the scrolls still breathing, the scholars still teaching, we are reminded of something profound. The greatest tragedy is not that the library burned, but that we still let knowledge perish in our time. For every closed mind is another book unopened, every silenced voice is another scroll turned to ash, and every truth ignored is another spark lost to the wind. Perhaps the Library of Alexandria still lives, not in stone, not in scrolls, but in the hearts of those who keep asking, what if? Morning breaks over the eternal library. The harbor hums with trade, ships from the corners of the known world unfurling sails heavy with knowledge. Papyrus, ivory, jade, and ink arrive side by side, gifts from lands united by curiosity rather than conquest. In this world, empires compete not in blood, but in brilliance. The measure of a kingdom's glory is not the reach of its armies, but the reach of its ideas. The library, unburned and eternal, becomes a parliament of the mind. Its halls echo with the voices of philosophers, astronomers, physicians, and poets. Greek blends with Sanskrit, Egyptian with Hebrew, Chinese with Latin. Languages no longer divided by pride, but woven into one great tapestry of thought. The custodians of knowledge, once servants of kings, now serve humanity itself. In this imagined age, the thirst for wisdom becomes the faith of the world. The gods are not abandoned, but understood through reason. Miracles are studied, not dismissed. Temples and observatories rise side by side, one seeking heaven, the other mapping it. Priests debate scientists not as rivals, but as brothers pursuing the same light by different paths. And in their shared pursuit, superstition fades, replaced by wonder. Centuries pass beneath this unbroken dawn. The discoveries that once took ages now unfold in decades. Steam engines hum before Rome collapses. The principles of flight are charted in the age of Caesar. Electricity sparks between copper and amber long before Columbus dreams of oceans. The stars are mapped, the pulse of the heart understood, the invisible world of atoms glimpsed in candlelight. The world transforms, but not at the expense of the soul. Art and science walk hand in hand. Every new discovery births a new poem. Every equation inspires a new fresco. The human spirit expands not through domination, but through understanding. Civilization becomes not a pyramid of power, but a circle of exchange. The library itself evolves, no longer a single building, but a living network. Copies of its scrolls are sent across continents, copied and shared by generations of scholars. In India, libraries bloom beside the Ganges. In China, astronomers use Greek geometry to chart the heavens. In Africa, mathematicians refine algebra centuries before Europe gives it a name. Knowledge, once fragile, now moves faster than flame. No single ruler can silence it, no war can erase it, no empire can claim it as its own. Without the loss of Alexandria, history itself bends toward unity. The Roman Empire governs through understanding, not subjugation, guided by scholars who have learned from every culture they rule. Slavery wanes earlier, its immorality exposed by philosophers whose words are preserved and multiplied, not buried in ash. The world's religions, instead of fracturing into dogma, evolve in dialogue, finding harmony in shared truths about creation, compassion, and purpose. By the 10th century of this unburned world, a global university flourishes, a league of wisdom, born from Alexandria's dream. Scholars travel freely between continents. Languages become bridges, not barriers. Disagreements still exist, for men remain human, proud, flawed, and curious. But war is waged not with swords, but with words. The battlefield becomes the forum, and victory is persuasion, not destruction. And yet, even in this golden age, shadows linger. For knowledge, like fire, needs tending. And too much brilliance can still blind. The same inventions that bring prosperity can bring peril. Steam engines power cities, but also forge weapons. The mastery of disease leads to experiments that blur the edge of ethics. And in secret chambers, some still hunger not for truth, but for control. The library's scholars debate endlessly. Can wisdom exist without restraint? Can mankind be trusted with the power it now wields? Some argue that enlightenment will purify the heart. Others warn that intellect without humility breeds new forms of tyranny. The same question that haunted Machiavelli centuries ago, does the pursuit of greatness corrupt the soul, now haunts the entire world. Still, for most, life has never been richer. The poor are educated. The sick are healed. The stars are no longer gods, but companions. Ancient lights guiding humankind toward understanding. Children learn from scrolls that speak of worlds beyond their own. Curiosity becomes the inheritance of every soul. By the age that would have been our Renaissance, the world stands centuries ahead. Art reaches new heights, cathedrals of light, gardens designed by mathematics, music composed to mirror the movements of the planets. Ships cross oceans powered by knowledge, not conquest. Explorers bring home not plunder, but friendship, stories, spices, and scrolls to add to the growing chain of libraries that circle the earth. And in this imagined timeline, there is no west or east, only humanity, illuminated. Nations still rise and fall, but each leaves behind more than ruins. They leave wisdom. No idea is ever truly lost. Every discovery becomes a foundation for the next, each generation building upon the last. Progress becomes inheritance, not revolution. At the heart of it all stands the Library of Alexandria, ancient, eternal, ever-expanding. Its marble steps are worn smooth by centuries of thinkers. Its halls glow with lamplight as scribes still copy, still debate, still dream. And above it, carved in stone, is the inscription that defines this world. Here, every question is sacred. As the centuries unfold, humanity stands on the brink of wonders even our real history could scarcely imagine. Machines that think, cities powered by sunlight, medicine that heals without harm, and perhaps most profoundly, peace, not born of fear, but of understanding. The library's dream has become the world's reality, and though pride and imperfection remain, they are tempered by something the flames of our true history once destroyed: hope in our own capacity to learn. But as the light of this imagined future burns brighter, another question whispers softly through time. If wisdom can save the world, why do we still choose to forget? It began quietly, as shadows often do. Not with fire or invasion, but with doubt. In the golden age that had risen from Alexandria's light, mankind had grown confident, perhaps too confident, in its own brilliance. The world no longer feared ignorance. It feared nothing at all. For centuries, knowledge had been the compass of civilization. Every empire bowed before reason. Every king consulted the scholars before the sword. But now a different hunger began to whisper through the corridors of wisdom, not for truth, but for control. Knowledge, once shared freely, began to gather in guarded circles. Scholars became gatekeepers, learning became leverage. The library that had once united the world began to divide it, not by accident, but by ambition. Some sought to own the truths of nature, to profit from discovery. Others sought to silence the truths that threatened power. And in the quiet rooms of councils and courts, words began to twist, not to reveal, but to conceal. The flame that once illuminated now cast shadows. Scientific marvels were hidden from the people, their benefits rationed to the privileged few. The poor still learned, but not all truths reached them. The scrolls copied for centuries began to disappear, not into ash, but into secrecy. Libraries, though standing tall, became fortresses of selective knowledge. It was here that the first whispers of arrogance were born. "We have mastered the world," some proclaimed. But wisdom, long preserved, began to dull beneath certainty. Men who once asked questions began to preach answers. The sacred curiosity that had built this world slowly bent beneath pride. And yet, the library still stood, unchanged, serene, timeless. Within its halls, the last true scholars met in secret. They feared not the loss of books, but the loss of wonder. One of them, an old philosopher whose name history never kept, wrote these words: "When knowledge ceases to seek, it begins to rule. And when it rules, it forgets why it was born." Still, hope endured in the minds of a few. In small towns and distant shores, teachers continued their quiet work. They shared what the great cities had begun to hide: lessons of humility, kindness, and the fragile beauty of truth. For they understood that wisdom, like fire, must remain shared to survive. But the shadows deepened. Machines, once made to serve mankind, began to define it. Governments measured progress not by harmony, but by power. Even art grew cold, perfect, symmetrical, soulless. The world had gained mastery of matter but lost the rhythm of meaning. The great invention of the age, the thought engine, could calculate the movement of the stars, predict the harvests, even mimic the patterns of speech. Yet it could not answer the oldest question: why? Men asked it anyway. And when its silence stretched too long, they filled the void themselves with ideology, pride, and half-truths. The League of Wisdom fractured. Nations that once exchanged scrolls now guarded their knowledge like crowns. Truth became political, and reason became a weapon. Libraries that had once been temples of unity turned into monuments of division, each claiming to be the true heir of Alexandria's flame. And in their pride, they forgot the simplest truth of all: that the flame had never belonged to anyone. Still, somewhere in the heart of the old city, the eternal Alexandria, the original library endured. Its marble was cracked, its scholars few, but its light had not gone out. Old voices whispered through the halls, echoing the words of Hypatia, of Aristotle, of the nameless thinkers who had once seen the stars as mirrors of the soul. And in the stillness of that sacred place, one final generation of keepers made a vow to remind the world what wisdom truly meant. They began again, not with machines or proclamations, but with letters. They sent them across the seas, written by hand, simple and human. Each carried a single phrase: "Knowledge without compassion is darkness reborn." Some read it and scoffed. Others read it and wept. And slowly, like dawn after a long night, remembrance began to stir. For even in this world of unbroken light, humanity had rediscovered its oldest truth: that progress without purpose is hollow, that truth without humility is dangerous, and that no library, no matter how vast, can save a world that forgets to listen to its own heart. A century passed. The age of shadows began to fade, not through revolution, but reflection. The scholars returned to their first calling, not as rulers, but as servants of truth. Knowledge once hoarded was freed again. The gates of the libraries opened, and the people, weary of perfection, began to seek meaning instead. In the end, the Library of Alexandria did not fall to fire, nor to time, nor to tyranny. It endured every age, even the dark ones, because it remembered what men sometimes forget. That wisdom is not in the scrolls or the machines, but in the quiet courage to ask questions, even when answers are dangerous. And so, as the world emerged from its shadow, the Sea of Alexandria shimmered once more. The lighthouse still burned across the water, its beams sweeping the horizon, not as a warning, but as a reminder. For even in an unbroken age, the light of wisdom must be tended, lest it become its own darkness. In the marble silence of the library, a young student looked up from her scroll and whispered, "Perhaps every age must lose itself before it truly learns." And outside, the waves continued their timeless rhythm, soft, patient, eternal, as if the sea itself remembered what mankind too often forgets, that even the brightest flame must flicker, if only to prove it still lives. By the 17th century, the Alexandrian academies had become the heart of a new enlightenment, centuries before Europe's own. Candlelight burned through marble halls as astronomers charted the heavens with instruments crafted by hands that had inherited Ptolemy's dreams and Copernicus' courage. As ships brought students from every coast, Arab scholars debated side by side with Greeks, Hebrews, Indians, and Africans, their tongues weaving a tapestry of discovery. They spoke of machines that could fly, of medicine that could heal without pain, of numbers that could predict the dance of stars. And in this imagined world, there were no dark ages, no long sleep of reason. The library had never closed its doors. Even religion found peace within its walls. Scrolls from every faith sat side by side, their truths not at war, but in conversation. Priests, poets, and philosophers gathered to seek what bound them together, not what tore them apart. Outside the marble columns, the world began to change. Steam rose from the ports of Alexandria 2 centuries before London would ever see a smokestack. The first prototype of a printing press clattered under Egyptian sun, its ink spreading words like wildfire through kingdoms that had never known literacy. Empires would rise differently. Conquest would bend toward knowledge, not blood. Even the concept of nation might soften beneath a common pursuit of understanding. The New World, when discovered, would be approached not as a land to be claimed, but as a library to be read. By the 19th century, humanity might already stand among the stars, not as conquerors, but as students, reaching outward with the same reverence they once gave to the fragile papyrus scrolls of their ancestors. For the Library of Alexandria had never been a building of stone. It was an idea that truth could outlive kings. And in this alternate history, that idea never perished in flame. Soft pause. We still ask, centuries later, what might have been if the library had survived? But perhaps the deeper question is this: how much wisdom have we lost, not by fire, but by forgetting to seek it? When the sea wind drifts through modern Alexandria, it still carries whispers, faint, like pages turning in the dark. Beneath layers of time and stone, the ghosts of 1,000 scrolls still sleep. We will never know all they held, the formulas that could have reshaped the world, the philosophies that might have softened our hearts, the stories that could have reminded us who we were meant to be. Yet perhaps the library did not truly die. For every candle lit in pursuit of truth, every book read with wonder, every child who looks up at the night sky and asks why, is an ember of that eternal flame. The new Library of Alexandria stands now by the same shore, glass and light rising where once there was marble and dust. Its walls reflect the sea, as if reminding the world that knowledge, like water, can never truly be contained. Empires fell, languages vanished, but the idea lived on, that learning is our last, best defense against the darkness. And maybe that's the lesson of the library's loss. That even when wisdom burns, humanity begins again, sifting through ashes, rebuilding the fire, page by page, dream by dream. Soft violin fades. So tonight, as you close your eyes and imagine those endless halls, the scent of ink and papyrus, the quiet murmur of minds at work, remember this: the Library of Alexandria was never just a place, it was a promise. And the promise still waits. In every question we dare to ask, in every truth we choose to keep alive. Do you think we'll ever rebuild it again? Across the world tonight, in quiet rooms lit by the pale glow of screens, people are searching for answers, for meaning, for connection. In a way, we've built another library, not of stone nor scrolls, but of light. A vast, living archive, filled with every thought, every story, every question humanity has ever dared to ask. The dream of Alexandria breathes again through us. Every scientist who seeks a cure, every artist who paints truth into color, every teacher who opens a child's eyes to wonder, they are its librarians now. But this time, there are no walls to burn. The fire that once destroyed knowledge now fuels it. The light of countless minds linked across oceans and generations. Still, the warning remains. Knowledge alone is not wisdom. A world can be filled with information and yet starve for understanding. The library's lesson was never just about what we lost, but about what we must learn to protect. Wisdom, compassion, curiosity, these are the true scrolls. Fragile, easily forgotten, yet eternal if we choose to keep them alive. And so, when you next read or listen or simply wonder, pause for a moment. Hear the echoes of the scholars who once walked beneath the columns of Alexandria, their footsteps fading into the sea breeze. They are still there, waiting, whispering, keep learning, keep seeking, keep the fire alive. Because as long as we remember to ask why, the Library of Alexandria will never truly be gone.